Hello everyone, welcome to Sharks TV again. It's Andy Glenn here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and share these things around social media. I hope everybody's doing well, and tonight we've got a really special guest. We've got Jamie Thomson, who is the assistant manager of the Solway Sharks, as I'm sure you'll all know. Jamie, how are you doing? What have you been doing during lockdown?
I'm good, Andy. Thanks, mate. Lockdown's been not too much out of the normal for me. I've been busy with work and with family and stuff. The only thing we're missing, obviously, is go to the rink most days. But I've been lucky. That's kind of kept me sane. So, not too bad.
We've all been missing the hockey. Saw a video of you on Facebook the other night. Some of the guys were down playing in a frozen puddle. It was good to see some of it. We're clearly
pretty drastic measures when we're driving about the countryside looking for frozen puddles. But I had my son and my nephew on a smaller piece for about 8 hours that day. So actually, Martin found that bit and he phoned me and said, we got a couple of the boys together and we had the floodlights and that on. It was good, but we had planned to go the next day. But by the time we got up, the weather had changed. So we might get another cold snap, hopefully, and get another shot at it. But it was a good laugh.
Dedication, isn't it? So, how did you all get started in hockey back in the day?
God, a lifetime ago. So, realistically, both myself and my brother probably got into it through my dad. He used to take us to Lockerbie skating on a Saturday night before the ice rink was open in Dumfries. I'm trying to think maybe around about 12-ish, I think I was. He would have been about 10 or 9, 10. And we went for a bit of time, and then when we got older, that kind of dropped off, and then the rink opened in Dumfries. And we got straight back into it, to be honest. My brother was into it a bit quicker than me, and then we've pretty much spent our whole lives there. Ever since the place opened, we went to skating lessons there and got up to speed very quickly. An old coach there, a guy called Ian Nocturloni, who was a Glaswegian guy, used to, when we got to a certain level, used to let us help take the skating lessons and stuff after that. So we were on end ice after school every night for time and time again, and hockey was just a natural progression after that. We were quite lucky, I think, our generation, that we got to watch the Vikings and some of the incredible players and games that went on back then. And it just kind of snowballed from there, really, if I'm honest, the kind of love for the game, and that was it. We were lucky then. I think we had a kind of golden era of hockey in this country. But
absolutely. But you played for a few teams. You played for the Sharks from pretty much day one, is that right?
Yeah, so come up through the Dumfries Juniors, played in the first Sharks team for a couple of years, and then left to go and try my hand when I was still younger at maybe a league above or a couple of leagues above. Played in Castlereagh for a time in Belfast, had a great season there, and spent 4 or 5 seasons at Blackburn as well over the years, and in between always coming back to Solway and spending multiple years at Solway. I finished my career at Paisley, unfortunately, but I would have loved to have finished retiring here, but that's just not the way it worked out back then. But I ended up at Paisley because they were the only guy that would give an old guy like me a game at that time. So I wanted to keep playing, and they had a vacancy and there was ice time available, so I ended up there for a couple of years, which was great, and made some good pals up there and all the rest of it. But through all the years and all the teams, it never really meant the same as when you were playing for Solway, with the boys you grew up with, and we had some huge success over the years. Winning leagues, winning cups, winning tournaments, and every time you came back here, and it's always been home and always meant more to me. So.
Absolutely, as we say, our team, your own team, Solway, that's what it's about.
It totally is. I mean, my time at Blackburn was fantastic, and I've made some friends for life down there. We speak to the boys probably every couple of days on a group chat, and we meet up every couple of, once a year or twice a year for a beer. And it was very similar to Solway down there, but but not quite the same. You know, it just didn't. Like you were born and bred here. You know, when you live 5 minutes for the rink, and it's just a different feeling really when you're successful here.
What position did you play, Jamie?
Anywhere I could get a game, Andy. I started as a forward in my younger days when I was a bit fitter, and I played the kind of physical game, liked to get stuck in, was never a prolific goal scorer or anything like that, and played more a defensive game, and throughout the years moved back into D. No through choice, I just happened to play a couple of games there when we were short, and we kind of settled there. I could move the puck pretty well, and that was it. And I kind of settled there in the later years when I didn't fancy going up and down the ice quite as much.
You started to slow down a bit. You must have played with some players. So, who's some of the best players you played with?
Christ. I think I was really lucky, like at 15, 16, 17, played with some of the best players probably ever come over here, like Vas Vasilenko, Dino Bauba, John and Bobby Haig, Gordon White. There was a guy in Blackburn the first year I was there called Andrew Dixon, who had came from Colgate University, and he was just an absolute goal-scoring machine. Hundreds of players like that were right up there, but they stick out. If it was a best player import wise, I always picked Vass as somebody that was close to our family, and he was outstanding. But back then, John Haig, young John Haig, he was probably 20, 21 when he played here. He was different class as well, you know.
So
really good.
If you had to pick one best player, who are you going for?
Sharks player or just the best player that I played with?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll do both. We'll go best player you've ever played with and best Sharks player you've seen.
I think for me, the best overall player that I would have to pick Vasa. He was Vas Vasilenko. Played with him here in Dumfries as a young kid that sat on the bench most of the time, and then I got the fortune to play in Castlereagh that season. We were, after Christmas, we were really short on bodies, and got a load of ice time that year at like I think I was 18, which is pretty mental when you think about it back now. But he was scoring plus 100-point seasons every year, and played for Sokol Kiev, and just phenomenal player.
Great.
Sharks player. We've had a lot of talented British players over the year. Gordon White, John Ballantyne. My brother was a great player. Tommy Ball, Ryan McBride, fantastic goal scorer. But for me, the best Sharks player will always be Bobby Chalmers. I think just raw talent alone when he was younger, he was unstoppable when he was at the peak. He was just so fast and so strong for his size, and people underestimated that and liked a wee tussle as well when he got older. But Bobby was Bobby for me is the most talented so far. There's a couple of young guys now I think will turn into be, they're the ones we'll talk about. But in my generation, Bobby's the best player. Maybe a shout out to Barry McKenzie as well. He's had the best career out of everybody, but Bobby's the most talented.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Barry's made it, and it's Fife, isn't it?
Barry's had a fantastic career. If you ever look at his roster, I remember him when they were under 10s and under 12s. Him and Mark Gallagher and a few other boys. Barry always wanted to be a hockey player, and he set his sights on that, and he's done a great job. Had a good, fantastic career, and which isn't easy nowadays. When I was I'm probably a good 10 years older maybe, and we had a lot of opportunity to play back then at his age. But he's hung in at that elite league and all these other top teams and done really well.
He's good to watch. So you got to end your career, you played with Paisley. Didn't sound that proud about playing with Paisley, but I enjoyed watching.
Oh no, I am. It's kind of local rivalry. I mean, we had two coaches here. Stuart Wilson, who was a former Solway coach, was a great guy. He took us there the first time, and then luckily Bobby Haig, who had been my coach at Blackburn, ended up taking the job at Paisley. and that's how I ended up staying there and finishing there. I had a great time at Paisley. We had a good team. The boys were fantastic, but I would have liked, and it haunted me for a while. But I mean, it sounds daft when you're playing at a kind of amateur level, or, you know, a serious amateur level, that it bothered me that much. But it did bother me for a good long time that I didn't get to go out in Solway in my own terms after spending so long there. That kind of bothered me. But that's well, I've put that well to bed now, Andy. We're all right. So
Good. So you finished in Paisley, but then you came back to Solway and you started to coach the juniors. What was that?
Yeah.
What was that like?
So when Martin came back after Kevin Docherty had left, I got involved with the kids kind of straight away and was just coaching under 12s and just to help out in bits and pieces. And that team there was like Connor Henderson, Josh Griefson, Callum Hepburn, Scotty Henderson, Stuart Kerr. So actually, I suppose you could say that I'm the reason that they're as good as what they are, if you wanted to say that, like, because we had them in under 12. I don't know if I'll get away with that or not, but I'm going to stake that claim.
It's only you and me watching now. Yeah, well, see, you're like you're
they boys, that group there, Kyle Johnston in goals. Kyle Johnston actually started as a defenceman and then went to a goalie. His brother, rest in peace, was obviously a goalie, but there was a great amount of talent in that group there. Lewis Chalmers, Struan Duff, a few other boys. So I ended up coaching them at under 12s. We were great. Moved up to 14s with them. Kind of took that group up a little bit and spent a bit of time. And then with work and stuff, got a bit busy for a year or so, and picked it back up. God, I mean, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, at under 20 level, and was coaching them when they got into the 20s. And we had Duncan Spears, Tom Watson, and a few other boys in that squad then. So it was great. I mean, coaching for me has been a bit more enjoyable than actually playing in the end up. And when you see them progressing, I'm a bit like an old father sitting in the stands, when I see them playing well, I'm proud of them all, and when you got to see boys like Josh went on, did really well, Connor Henderson did well, Scotty Henderson's, Rory, Liam Stenton's fantastic. When you see them getting their chance with the players like in the Clan and all these other places, it makes you feel proud and it makes it all worthwhile. And they're a good bunch as well, They're a really good bunch. They've always listened. They didn't give you much grief. And they're a credit to themselves, actually. For a small club, we've churned out some talent over the years,
Yeah, I know we kind of had a laugh about the fact that you're responsible, but the whole coaching of
I'm definitely not. We've got a good bunch here, with Martin and all the rest of it. But
I know, but we turn out some really good players. I mean, I watched some of the youngsters playing at with the Clan against Freeburg and things like that.
Yeah,
and I was proud watching them as a Solway fan. So goodness knows what you, Martin, and the team were thinking, because we are really proud of these guys.
Oh, they did really well. I mean, we, as an under 20 coach, we made the British finals a couple of years back there, and we got beat by 1 goal by Sheffield, and everybody had wrote us in the semi-final. Everybody had wrote us off. Now, if you look at the players that scored the goals in that game for Sheffield, Cole Shudra, Finlay Ulrich, Liam Kirk, all of these players are either playing abroad or they're playing in elite league regular spots at the moment. And they only beat us by 1 spot, but they wrote us off. So that's a testament to where they've came from, them boys. Lewis Houston, Liam Stenton, Stuart Kerr, Scott Henderson, I'm probably missing out some. Those boys are phenomenal talents and real proper athletes. They're the real deal, these boys. And hopefully they get their chance,
Yeah, it's a privilege to watch them, and we're going to follow their career and see where they go, and the future is golden for them. I really think it is.
I think we can get this COVID thing out of the way. I mean, the good thing, they've all got their heads screwed on. They can play hockey at the highest level they possibly can and enjoy it for, you know, they've got another 20 years ahead of them if I'm anything to go by, so they've got plenty of time, you know.
Brilliant, brilliant. So then you're involved with the obviously the coaching with the senior side as well. How did you move into that?
Well, me and Martin have been friends for since we were 16, you know, a long time now. What's that, coming up 30 years probably. And it was a natural kind of progression because I coached with the Scotland conference team at under 17 level, and every year I was we were talking about different players and coming out of my squad at that level saying keep an eye on him for Solway and blah blah blah. And then the players were moving up out of the under 20s anyway into the squad, and I'd been working with them. Scott, who was doing the job prior, had family commitments and had stepped back, and it was just a natural progression, really. I mean, my job with Martin is really easy. I'm really a sounding board. Me and him have a conversation probably every day. I give him my opinion. He bounces things off me as a sounding board, and you know, that's how it works. And it works relatively well. It works well. I think we've got a good partnership. We've got a good balance, and that's it. You know, he also leaves it to me to lose the rag on occasion as well. I'm not quite as calm in the room sometimes as he is. I'm a bit old school that way, but it was a natural thing to get involved in. As soon as he asked me if I wanted to come in full time, yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. I mean, I think as well, when you were talking about the young players coming through, the success that's always had with you and Martin in particular, it encourages more youngsters to come through because they can see the success. They can see there's a progression for them.
That's exactly what we want to try and build here, Andy. Both of us are huge about, we'll never hold a player back just for keeping them here. Our job is to nurture a player to a certain level and have a big team come and pick them up. That's what we want. That if we've done that, then we've done our job well. Some players want to stay here and have work commitments, and that's it. But if players want to progress and a team comes from him, then you know that's a direct result of the effort they've put in and the effort that we've put in to get them to that level, and it's a great success story for the club. You know?
Yeah, I mean, even just speaking to you just now, the passion for hockey comes through. So, what's the kind of worst part of the job?
Losing.
I will hate that.
I can't do losing. You know, I think me and Martin laugh about this all the time, and if both of us could wind the clock back 20 years, we'd both be double the players we were, right? Because the stuff that you know now about training and the impact it can possibly have, and eating right, and you know all that kind of stuff. But I think the worst part of the game for me now is seeing that there's so many talented kids, especially in the north of the country, and knowing the opportunities that people like me and Martin had to play in the British League and to play in a 4, 5, 6 import league and potentially make a living out of it. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for any kid, no matter what age they are or how good they are, to be able to have that same opportunity, because the game's changed so much and favours this elite league style of multiple imports. And anybody that knows me knows I'm a big advocate for British hockey, for British players and young players in particular getting a chance. And the worst part for me in that thing is I fear that there'll be a generation of hockey players that don't really get the same chances that we did, because the world's changed, the game's changed, and that's it. But players that are even a bit older than me in the late 80s and early 90s, if you were at 16, 17, 18 as good as what these kids were, they would have been superstars and full-time hockey players, right? And the way that the game's changed over the years and the bias towards imports, in my opinion, isn't a good thing.
And do you think there's been an opportunity missed with bringing together the whole British hockey?
Try not to get involved in politics, Andy, but the short answer to that is I think it's a massive opportunity missed. Being involved in the national junior game, there's so much behind the game, point scoring and politics and stuff, and the bottom line is there's a huge amount of really good people involved in the game, north and south of the border. Yeah. The only thing that matters is the end product and the kids, in my opinion, at the end of the day, and the next generation of professional players. it is a massive opportunity missed. I mean, it's always easier when everybody's working off one sheet of paper, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was the worst part of the job. What's the best part of the job to get us back in a bit of a high here?
The best part of the job, obviously winning and being successful. But for me, I love being back in the room and have a bit of banter with the boys, and you didn't feel quite as old then, and I love being on practice and stuff. But the best part is seeing the players perform and start to grow, and the way they develop. I mean, I always pick Joey Coulter as a kind of example. Joe was a bit wild at school, a bit of a lad and all the rest of it. I used to give him a pep talk every day when I seen him outside the academy. And, he's turned himself around into a great guy, really fit, got himself a chance at Leeds, head screwed on, and there's numerous ones like that we could mention that we've brought in here and they've progressed and done really well. And for me, that's the best part. That's what it's all about for me. It's not about me lifting trophies or titles and stuff. I have no real interest in any of that. That's for the boys. That's for the team. But seeing them all progress, that's the best part for me. I'll never ever change it. It'll always be that.
Brilliant. That's really good. So, I mean, thinking back to last season, I'm interested in your thoughts on last season, because at the start we obviously lost a lot of players. A lot went to others elsewhere, and we had quite a young team at the start, and I know the fans were, I wouldn't say worried, but because they'd lost a lot.
I think they were probably right to be worried, Andy.
But these young players were fantastic last year, in my opinion. I'm really interested to hear what you think about the young Sharks that came in last year.
So so there's two sides to that, right? So as a fan, I would totally get that people were apprehensive and worried, and not quite sure how it's going to go. And if we finish mid-table, that might be all right.
Yeah.
However, the other side of that is that the side that me and Martin and the boys know is that the vast majority of these kids, so Ewan Anderson, Marcus Murdoch, and Stents, even Houston before he left, these kids, Scotty, all the rest of them, these kids have been skating with us for a year, maybe 2 years prior. Even when they were playing for other clubs, we knew the pathway was always they would end up being here, because the older boys were always going to get a choice to go at some point, and you're always kind of recruiting. And I think with my job at the Scotland conference, and with Martin being involved in the GB thing, it does give us a wider audience to be able to cast our eyes over these boys. But we knew by the time we put them into that squad, they were ready. It wasn't like we were taking them out of under 20 hockey and chucking them straight in at the deep end, because you would have been right to be apprehensive, because they probably would have suffered. But talent-wise and hard work-wise, they've come in, they've settled in, they've took their chance when they've got it, and they've owned it. They've if you take Ewan, struggled at the start, maybe a bit quick for him, was used to logging loads of ice. Wasn't he getting that when he came, because he had, he's like starting again in senior hockey. We unfortunately lost Lewis Houston, massive blow for us, but good opportunity for him. And Ewan stepped into that gap on the first line and never looked back. I don't know what he finished with, but it was 40 plus points, I think. So
Ewan was great. The first couple of times I saw him, he did look a wee. The game did look fast for him, but you could tell his attitude was there, and he toughened up over the year as well. And he had some fantastic goals and some fantastic assists, and he was a really valuable player for us.
Aye, definitely. I mean, Ewan's had some injuries over the past couple of years, but this year in particular, he did a lot of work with a personal trainer and stuff. He knew after the start of the season, he knew he was going to need to strengthen up by Christmas and stuff to take his chance, and he did that. Yeah. So full credit to him, especially. He probably had the biggest gap of them all to climb, and if I was to pick one for last year, I think he probably did it the best, if I'm honest.
I thought they all played fantastically well. By the end, they were just fantastic. I mean, the season ended was just a bad way, but it could have been. I think we would have went on. I'm fairly certain we would have won the Scottish. Through the Final Four in Scotland, we would have won that. We gave Whitley a good fright a few times. Turned them over a couple of times at home as well.
I think you're right. At the end of the season, they were flying. We had really found our momentum. The boys were training hard. The Scottish games are never a given. I mean, the one thing about that league, especially, teams really upped their game. I thought it was good having us in that league. I mean, the Tigers especially really upped their game. I mean, they've put together as professional an outfit as they can there, which was credit to them. And the games against the Racers undoubtedly were the best games that we played, all year. Even especially mine and Martin's favourites were the ones in Edinburgh. To be fair, the atmosphere in Edinburgh is fantastic. The old school rink, and so that would have been a challenge. But I'm confident we could have got a result there, and I'm confident we would have went on into playoffs and turned Whitley over, if I'm honest. But I'm a firm believer in that they were nowhere near as good a team as us. We just, that bit of inexperience and a bit of youth kind of let us down, maybe in the middle, until they found that wee bit of belief and turned them over that couple of times. And after that, they were ours. But hey, that's life, isn't it? COVID had other plans for us, and that's it. But the short answer to your question was the team did amazing. I mean, we if you asked anybody at the start of the year, we overachieved. But our level is so high that if we don't finish first, we were disappointed as staff. But actually, nobody expected us to get the results that we actually did do. Finish second in the league, in the playoffs, cups, all the rest of it. Nobody would have wrote it. Everybody had wrote us off at the start of the year. Everybody.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that one of the games that you talked about, the Tigers being really good. I remember we went up to Dundee to watch the game. There was no imports at that. I think it was the first game after Christmas last year.
Yeah, and the boys went home, mate. Yeah.
Callum was in goals. That's the best I've seen. How he never got man of the match that game was beyond me. But they played brilliantly without the imports against a really, really good Tigers team. And at that point, you knew these guys are players. They're no youngsters. They're up there.
No, they definitely are. I mean, what you've got to take into consideration as well is that these teams like the Tigers, the Comets and stuff, they're filled with the players that these boys have played against for years. They know them. It's not like when you go to Solihull and they've never played against some of these guys before. Yeah. They know them, so there's a bit more confidence there. So when they're playing against the Scottish teams, they're always going to perform a little bit easier in the early days when they first come into the season, because they know the players they're playing against and have a bit of confidence. And Big Callum's a solid netminder on his day, I actually play golf with Callum a couple of times a week right throughout the season, so I'll not bum him up too much because but he's solid. He's got himself in good shape. He's always consistent. And that's all he asks for. If the boys give him a solid performance in front of him, he'll always get a chance to win.
He was great that game. I really enjoyed watching that game. So, what's the best part of ice hockey? It's a major part of your life. What's the best part for you, though?
I mean, it sounds kind of daft now that I don't actually watch that much hockey now. I get a bit bored watching games. I prefer to watch the kids' games now. Actually, my son and my nephew playing, I get more of a buzz watching them. But for spectators and stuff coming in, it's a great night out, isn't it? You mean, fast, plenty of action, bit of physical stuff, the odd fight here and then. Nothing major, bit of handbags here and there. You can have a beer. It's a good atmosphere. It's safe to let your kids run about, all the rest of it. I mean, it really is a fantastic game. And when you get your head round about it, it's testament to the people that keep coming back every week. For me, there's nothing else really matches up to it. I watch a lot of sports in it, and hockey was always the one that just hooked me, and loads of people like me, obviously like yourself. But it's hard to say why. I just love everything about it. Really, it's been as you say, it's been my whole life. So, yeah.
It's just almost the smell as soon as you walk in. It's the smell of the ice, the coolness when you walk in. You get the hairs on the back of your neck up. It's great.
like some of the old rinks, Glasgow Summit Centre, which is no longer with us, and a few of the old ones when we were kids, going in for Scotland train at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and it was like -6 inside, It's like just some of the places were fantastic when we were younger, but and the Ice Bowl is world-class facility, and the staff have always been great, management have always been great. We're very, very lucky to have it here. Really lucky to have it here, in fact.
Right, I'm going to give you a couple more questions. Some of them, these ones are quite tough though. Right.
Right, go.
You struggled to pick your best player a wee while ago. I'm wanting your all-time top Sharks starting six, and you're only allowed one import.
Right. So this is something that if you had asked Martin this, he would have laughed, right? Because we actually made a spreadsheet about a month ago with loads of different ultimate teams on it, with different qualifications, and all the rest of it. And not once did we agree on any of them. But from my generation, so if I'm talking about the line of all the players that have played for the Sharks that I think would do the most damage,
right?
It's relatively easy. So I would pick Colin Grubb in nets. Rusty was a really close second, but for me in my generation, Grumpy, who's Martin's brother, was unstoppable. Night in, night out. Fantastic netminder. Liam Stenton on left D. Gordon White on right D. I would have Lewis Houston on the left wing. Bobby Chalmers in centre. And Gappa.
Gappa is your import.
I went no import actually, and flung. I could have flung Salem in there. I could have flung Barry McKenzie in there, Scotty Henderson in them. But love Gap. I love Gaps. Gaps is a player, big game player. And if you lined him up with Houston and Chalmers, they would be unstoppable. Spud would probably say Richie Lamb, Martin Grubb and Bobby Chalmers. They would be his three, I would think, right? But I'm pretty confident my line would beat his.
I have to say Gaps is a fan's favourite. He's such a nice guy, and as you say, steps up to the big games. The thing that I really like about him is he helps the youngsters on the ice. Even, you can see it. He really brings them into a game.
Gaps is something that a lot of the players we've brought in, a lot of the senior players we've brought in from outside of this team have all had a really similar thing. Horny, Hutchie, Gaps, they're all winners, right? They're all professional. They're proper professionals. They're winners. The way they conduct themselves off the ice. Kale Tanaka was another one. The way they conduct themselves before the game, during the game, after the game, the way they train, the way they apply themselves, the way they speak to fans, the way they speak to the kids in the room, and Gaps is in that bracket for me every time.
Yeah, we love Gaps, absolutely. Thank you for that. Now, got any messages for fans? You were kind of indicating that you might be able to give us a wee scoop, a wee exclusive about what we're thinking about doing for the start of next year.
Well, I'll come to that. But and I've seen a lot of the messages, and all the rest that are fine. But I tell you one thing I am missing, and there's two things I'm missing on Saturday night. Me and Martin are both missing. One of them is Chrissy Corbett. Right, a big shout out to Chrissy Corbett, fans' favourite. Boys love him in the room.
Brilliant.
And the second one is the young team for up in the corner, the young Geddes boy and them.
Yeah.
The young team are fantastic with the drum and everything, and I know they get us on a wee bit of bother sometimes, but they are great, and it's great to see them. So I hope they're all safe and they're all behaving themselves, and we look forward to seeing them at the game sometime, for sure. As for the scoop, I'm pretty confident we can let you have it. This isn't live, so my phone's not going to ring halfway through it, so I'll just give you it anyway. So myself and Martin have spoke over the years about, there's loads of players that have played for the Sharks. Lots of them put multiple years out of it. That there's a new breed of fan in there, and some of the fans in Solway might not even know who they are, which is a bit of a travesty, to be honest. So we've always spoke about having a more of a kind of alumni thing, getting some of the old boys to the rink for more games, treating them a bit better because they gave up years of their life for the club. having them involved with some sponsors and charities and bits and bobs like that. So we thought with COVID and everything that's went on, that's kind of drawn everybody a bit closer. We're in touch with a lot more of the older boys than we were before because of it. So we're going to kick off next season with a kind of charity weekend, but a fun weekend for everybody. Hopefully in or around about the week before potentially a league starts, all going well. You know, we're thinking positively and planning that we're going to be okay by then. So we're going to have a golf day for ex-players, current players, sponsors, guests on a Friday. And then on the Saturday, we'll have some sort of game, maybe even a smaller format like a 3v3 tournament. There's so many players have come back and said right now that they want to take part that if they all turned up, we maybe have to have 2 games or only have a shift each or something. But we'll figure that out as we go. And we'll play for the Bobby Carruth Cup that we had. Bobby was the team manager and a member of all our successes and somebody that was close to us for numerous years. Is unfortunately no longer with us. We had a game from about 2 years ago that was a massive success. With a lot of the old boys come back, so that cup's there. So we'll put that back up for the winners, and from the proceeds, we're going to select an NHS type charity on the effect of COVID and stuff that's had for a local charity, and we'll make a donation from the proceeds of that. So it's a bit up in the air. It's very early days. We've got hammered down a lot of prep and stuff, but I must say the feedback for the boys so far has been spectacular. I mean, I can't tell you who, but I'm talking boys coming that live in the US. You know, we spoke to people in Australia, obviously mainland Europe, and every single one of them's come back and went, "Yep, if we can fly and we can make it, we're there." So, going to be a special event. Going to be a good weekend.
Well, we'll be there from Sharks TV recording it for posterity as well.
Sure,
so
right.
We'll get that to people if they are travelling from overseas. They can show their families what they've been up to. So,
I'm fingers crossed we're out the woods with this, and I'm praying by end of August, beginning of September that we should be.
Yeah, we all hope so. I mean, obviously, we're not going to have any hockey this season, so it's something to look forward to.
I think, unfortunately, this new strain and second wave has put that to bed, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, I would just like to thank you for spending some time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed talking to you. I've got one last question that I've asked everybody that we've done the interview with. It's the tune that you're going to want to hear when we're back in the Shark Tank. I always say this to be near rubbish, but Brian last week came up with a birdie dance, so we've got to take it a level up there. Come on. So, what are you thinking?
You know what? I haven't actually watched Martin's interview. How bad is that?
You're going to watch Martin's interview? Martin said the boys are back in town.
I thought he would, because he used to play that all the time when that was it. So that's out the window. Here's one for you, right? I'll throw it right out there, and you might not even know where I've pulled it from. But if you find out, you can message me, and I'll give you credit. The organ version of Lady of Spain.
The organ version of Lady of Spain. Craigie, Solway Sharks announcer, over to you, sir. You've got to find that someplace and play it.
It's one of old Reggie's favourites.
Right. So there's a challenge for us. Thank you very much, Jamie. Thank you very much, Jamie, for your time. It's been great. We'll get you back on another time because we probably could have talked for ages more. Yeah. Thank you for your time, and we'll speak to you soon.
Top man, Andy. Take care. Cheers.